take a look at the Cyberpunk Red rule set. It's been a while. I like to check on it occasionally, and I had some ideas I want to try with a particular rule set using some generative AI tools such as Claude 3. So essentially, they've been doing, when I say they, the developers have been doing a pretty good job keeping up with most, if not all, of the DLC. There's a few things that haven't been converted yet, I noticed on the website, but all in all, they have a majority of the content converted. And I know they're working on the latest and greatest module. If you go to the Fantasy Grounds Discord in the channel where the developers engage with the community, they're talking about putting together that the final DSC or DLC, the CEK module. And also, if you're new to Fantasy Grounds or the platform, there are also some free DLC on the Fantasy Grounds Forge. This is by Sean SPS. He's one of the members of that team. He's doing a lot of these conversions for the free DLC. So a lot of this stuff on here is free. In the Fantasy Grounds platform itself, I happen to have a lot of that stuff loaded, or most of it. So if I go to library up here on the right and go to modules, this is some of the DLC that you can find in addition to the official rules. I also have a module here that was delisted. I'm not sure why, but this was on the Forge. It was created by a community member as well, one of the more prolific ones. And as you can see, I got quite a bit of content here for this rule set. So it's not bare and has a lot of support. And the rule set itself is very well done. Character sheets look really good. If I go to the player, go to characters, and if you want to, you can set up a character using the character wizard, or you can use, you can also do the sign up for Elves Online, which is a way to play through their kind of like their MMO kind of game. And then the character wizard will take you through the steps, and it's really nice because you can start off as a street rat, an edge runner, or the complete package, which are different levels of sophistication for building characters. And then you select your role, which is really cool. This character wizard took a lot of work, and I'm pretty happy with it. The other thing is, like, you can import characters as well. And as a matter of fact, one of the community members and the developers for that particular rule set made a kind of like a group or a module that has all of the standard races in it, or the standard archetypes and such. So let me go into my modules, and I think he called those like basics or something. There was a name for it. I can't remember what he called it. But essentially, they are a bunch of standard characters that are already built, and then all you have to do is import them. So that's a module that he put together for me in case I wanted to just bring characters in without having to spend all the time building them. I think they might be in the roster where I can actually import them. So nonetheless, they were kind of a group of characters to use so that you don't have to build a bunch of characters if you want to try things out. So that was really nice for them to do that. The other thing is, I was doing some research the other day, and I thought about an older movie. I'm not sure if you guys are aware of it, but it's kind of like a cult classic here. And the movie is The Warriors. So if you haven't seen this, it came out in 1979. Essentially, there's a gang that was framed for the murder of a charismatic and kind of a well-liked kind of political / charismatic figure is assassinated at this big meeting that they were at. And basically, these guys got framed for the murder, and they had to fight their way from the meeting all the way back to their home, which is in Coney Island, which is kind of like the waterfront kind of thing. And anyways, they have to fight their way back through the city to kind of, you know, to clear their name, but also to avoid trouble. And they kind of run into all kinds of trouble on the way. And they meet up with different types of gangs and different individuals along the way that kind of help or hinder their progress. One of the main characters that joins them is Mercy. She joins them near the beginning. And she kind of, I think she kind of likes this guy here. He becomes like the leader after their guy gets he gets put out, and they all have their own personalities and strengths and weaknesses. I kind of like the movie. It was well done for its time. I mean, it is a little weird, a little campy, but I really liked it, and it was a lot of fun to watch it as a kid. And I think I was probably too immature for it, but I still liked it. It was really cool. But the Warriors movie, I thought, would make a very good plot line for the edge runners in Cyberpunk. So if you were kind of wanting to have a fresh idea of what to do and what kind of content, if you don't want to run the stuff that's in the actual modules, you can kind of make something similar to this and kind of use the plot here to kind of develop your own. So I'm going to do something like that with the edge runners. Instead of calling them the warriors, it'll be the edge runners. Kind of have a similar kind of linear path as to, like, the premise will be the same. Basically, you're at this meeting, you get framed for a murder, you have to kind of fight your way out and back to your home turf. And I think that would makes a really good cyberpunk adventure. You just kind of reskin some of this stuff here, change the names of the gangs and the locations. You won't be in New York or wherever this takes place. And obviously you're not going to use the warriors because that's probably copyright, but everything else, the mood, the vibe, the violence, all the stress, and then the details of the characters could be either your own gang or perhaps like some NPCs that you're with. So whatever you think is fun for you, that would probably make for a very interesting adventure. It'd be kind of fun. So you're kind of like fighting your way out of a big problem, and I think that would be a lot of fun. It might even be deadly depending on how you structure it. So what I'm going to do is actually go to, I'm going to take in Claude 3, which is a generative AI tool. And what I want to do is use it to help me come up with a conversion, so to speak, for the Cyberpunk Red rule set, but using the premise of the Warriors. So I'm going to go back to start a new chat. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to ask it to, I'll say, please create a detailed and I want to kind of like a detailed and I want to say organized overview and summary of the cult classic 1979 movie, The Warriors. So I want it to list the characters, the gangs, the locations, and the plot. So I want it to kind of basically do the organizational part of this. So I'm going to say list all of the characters, the gangs, the plot. I'll say including the DJ and Mercy. So Mercy is the woman that joins them. All right, so this is just a preliminary. I haven't asked anything about Cyberpunk yet, but I want to see what it comes up with. So it's going to do a little research. It's going to pull on, it's going to pull on the internet. So this is essentially the breakdown of this particular film. So I understand that you like the detailed overview, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so the overview is The Warriors, a 1979 American action thriller film directed by Walter Hill. It's based on Sol Urich's 1965 novel of the same name, which I want to read that, by the way. The film has gained a significant cult following since its release. So the plot summary is The story takes place in a dystopian New York City, which is exactly what you'd want for Cyberpunk, where street gangs control the night. The Warriors, a gang from Coney Island, are framed for the murder of a respected gang leader named Cyrus during a citywide meeting of gangs. The Warriors must then fight their way back to their home turf while being hunted by every other gang in the city. And it breaks down the main characters. So you have Swan, the Warriors' war chief. Ajax is a hot-headed member of the Warriors. Cleon is the Warriors' leader. He's killed early in the film. Mercy, a young woman who joins the Warriors during their journey. Luther is the antagonist, the bad guy. He's the leader of the Rogues gang. And Cyrus is the legendary Gramercy Riffs gang leader who was assassinated at the meeting. So some notable gangs: the Warriors, the Rogues, the Gramercy Riffs, the Turnbull ACs, the Orphans, the Baseball Furies, the Lizzies. Key locations. So we got Coney Island, Van Cortlandt Park. That's where the meeting was. Various subway stations and trains. Central Park and Riverside Park. And during this film, if you haven't seen it yet, there's a DJ that's narrated. It provides updates on the Warriors' progress, and the DJ relays messages from the other gangs, acting kind of as a Greek chorus for the audience. So it's kind of like a way to narrate and kind of give you an update on things from another angle, essentially. So the film follows the Warriors as they navigate through the various territories, encountering different gangs and obstacles. They must use their wits and fighting skills to survive the night and clear their name. The journey is interspersed with moments of tension, action, and character development. Would you like me to elaborate on any aspects of the film? I'm going to say no for now, but I do like this nice summary. So that gives me a breakdown of kind of how I want to structure the adventure. So now what I want to do is convert this over to some sort of, locations and all that. So I'm going to say I want to convert and use the premise of the movie above, including the plot and the vibe of the Warriors movie, but into a cyberpunk red adventure using custom and unique names, use locations, and related lore from Night City, because that's where I want it to take place. Instead of New York, it'll be Night City. And I also want to I want to think of some memorable and, we'll say, useful names and gangs to include and sub with the movie content. So essentially, I just want to take it and reskin it and add cyberpunk elements to it and make this kind of like a memorable adventure. And this is something that, in the movie, it was one night, but you can kind of stretch it out to, maybe 3 or 4 sessions or maybe longer, depending on how much combat and role play you have. So it would kind of depend on how you want to do this. But if you're joining us late, we're taking the premise of the cult classic, The Warriors, and getting the plot and the characters and places and all that, and then converting that story idea into a homebrew adventure for the Cyberpunk Red rule set. So I think it would make a really cool backdrop for an adventure, and without using the actual character names and the movie itself, you could probably get away with creating an adventure like this, and I think it would be a lot of fun. So we want it to be memorable, useful names, movie content, and I want to say organize and structure like the information above. Write and I'll say create like a professional RPG writer and author. So I kind of want it to be polished. I don't want just a bunch of riffraff in there. All right. So I don't mind it in the beginning though when it's a little rough, but I kind of want to start off on a good foot here. So certainly I'll create Cyberpunk Red based on the Warriors premise. Oh, neat. It's already kind of given me the cool. All right, so let's take a look at what it did here. So Neon Exodus is the name of the title, called The Long Night. Huh, interesting. Neon Exodus The Long Night is a cyberpunk red adventure set in the sprawling metropolis of Night City. It follows a small-time gang framed for the assassination of a major gang leader during a citywide truce meeting. The adventure combines high-stakes action, survival, and urban exploration as the players navigate through hostile territories to clear their name and make it back to their home turf. So the Neon Nomads is what they call their gang, which is okay. It's not bad. I can live with that. A lesser-known gang from the outskirts of Night City. They are invited to a massive gathering of all the major gangs in the city. The meeting, organized by the enigmatic leader of the Chromed Barons, is meant to establish a citywide truce. However, chaos erupts when the Baron is assassinated, and the Neon Nomads are framed for the murder. Now they must fight their way across Night City, dodging rival gangs, corrupted Night City Police Department officers, and corrupt hit squads or corporate hit squads, all while trying to uncover the truth behind the assassination. It's pretty cool. I think that would make a really fun adventure. And then it goes into Vertex is one of the characters, Glitch, Spark, Nyx, Razor, and the Chrome Baron. So these are just kind of like their substitutes for the different types of characters. And then for notable gangs, you have these guys, the Voodoo Boys, Tiger Claws, Maelstrom. So some of these are from the actual game, which is kind of cool. And now for the key location. So Pacifica, Corporal Plaza was the location of the gang meeting. Various metro stations and Delamain taxis, Night City Park, and the Afterlife, which is an iconic mercenary bar. And so these are the locations that it's kind of picked out. And I'll have to take a look at the map and see if it kind of makes sense. The Fixer. So throughout the adventure, a mysterious fixer known as the Oracle broadcasts encrypted messages via the local net. So it's probably broadcast on the agents, which is kind of like your cell phones. Provides updates on the Neon Nomads' progress and relaying intel from other gangs. The Oracle serves as both a guide and a complicating factor for the player. So I think that'd be a cool narrative thing that the game master can employ throughout the adventure, is like make these announcements that come across their phones or their agents, and they have to deal with the aftermath of that. Sometimes beneficial, sometimes not. So that's a really cool element to put in your story, and it kind of adds to the immersion. And it doesn't have to be a fixer, but I kind of like the idea. Instead of a DJ, it could be a rocker boy though that has like a pirate radio station or something like that. So it might change that, but that's a really cool plot device there to kind of move the story along and to give the players updates. The journey. Okay, so the adventure structure is the players meet At a citywide gang meeting in Corporal Plaza. The frame is the Chrome Baron is assassinated and the Neon Nomads are framed. The chase. So players escape the Corporal Plaza while hunted by other gangs. Their journey, they must navigate through various districts of Night City, each controlled by a different gang or faction. And the truth is to uncover clues about the real assassin and the motivations behind the frame up. And then the showdown will be a confrontation with the true culprits near the Neon Nomads um, home turf and basically to clear their name. So unique elements. So cybernetic disguises could be used in this. So players can use illegal tech to temporarily alter their appearance, helping them navigate through the hostile territories. So you'd have to work that in. It sounds like kind of a hokey thing, but I might use it. Net warfare. Net runners play a crucial role in hacking city systems to aid escape and gather intel. So that would be fun. You have a net runner in your group, and you have them hack into like the rapid transit for Night City. Corporate wildcard. A mysterious corporation is secretly influencing the events, adding another layers to the conspiracy. I like that. So maybe Militech or Arasaka or one of the other big corporations might be indirectly involved. And some sort of loyalty system. So players' choices throughout the adventure affect their standing with the various factions, influencing potential allies and enemies. So that's kind of cool. That's another mechanic or something you'd have to track, but I think it might help you with role playing and setting forth goals and also obstacles. This adventure combines the gritty urban survival aspects of the Warriors movie with the high-tech corporate talk, I can't even say that word, but basically corporate world of Cyberpunk Red. It offers opportunities for intense combat, stealth, net running, and social interactions, all while navigating the neon-lit, danger-filled streets of Night City. So you can add a couple elements where like not always combat, but like maybe you missed the train, you got to find another way, like you have to go through the tunnel or something like that, and you have to fight some weird gang members down there or something. So I think it has a lot of potential, and I don't think it would be too hard to put all this together, and especially now that we have the structure. But some of the things I would do here is probably start looking at building the gangs out. Obviously, you'd want a leader and the mooks that go with them, or a representative of these gangs. And then obviously the locations, you want to check those out, see where they are in relation to each other so you don't have to redesign or reinvent the wheel. And then, of course, you can make the fixer and just have some pre-canned dialogue that's all set in case they get to a certain point in the adventure. Then you already have some stuff made up for each section of the adventure, so you don't have to make it all up on the fly. You can make up some of it because obviously you can't predict everything that's going to happen, but you can at least have some kind of like some talking points that occur or something that will occur regardless throughout the adventure as far as the story goes. And then for the adventure structure, this is kind of open to interpretation because it may not happen in the same order, but kind of close. Unique elements, I'd have to look at that, but the net warfare was pretty cut and dry. The cybernetic disguises, I might allow that for like 1 or 2 players. Or maybe they use Mercy's character, or in this case, they call her Nyx, as kind of like someone they use to kind of get around stuff. Corporate wildcard, I do like that. That's a really good plot point. And the loyalty system, I might be open to that. I don't, if it's easy to track and I have a way to kind of justify doing that throughout gameplay, I'd probably use it. I don't see a problem with it. It's just another thing to track is all. So you don't want to add more work to your plate if you can help it. But this is a pretty good start. And this is how I would approach it, is I would start looking for resources. So I'd make some artwork, start building the premise, and all I would do with the main characters is not necessarily build the characters fully, but just give them each a background and then let the players pick the background, and that kind of will determine how they build their character. So I think that would be a good way to do this, kind of opposite, because a lot of people will pick, well, I want to be a solo and I want to be a med tech, but if you pick the background, it'll kind of allude to the type of character you want to play. And I don't think that everyone has to fit the same exact mold as the movie. But I think by having the kind of the backgrounds already sort of sorted out, it gives them the immersion and the connection that they need because they're in a gang together, so they kind of know a little bit about each other. I don't think they're just coming together for the first time. That's kind of what I'm getting at. And then Nyx could probably be used as an NPC. So she doesn't have to be a player character, but if you wanted her to, you could. They have her here as a street smart scavenger who joins the Neon Nomads during their journey. So it doesn't have to be a girl, it can be a boy too. And I think this is a lot of fun. I think this would be an excellent one shot because you got, let's see, you got 1, 2, 3, you got about 3 main characters here, and then you have, this supporting NPCs. So I think Mercy could actually be part of the group. Maybe she can be a net runner or perhaps a rocker girl who used to be in a band or something like that. And maybe she knows a lot about this guy, the leader of the meeting that went down. So the Chrome Baron. So maybe she knows a lot about him, and maybe she's a follower of the Chrome Baron. But nonetheless, I think having all this different stuff in place would make this for an interesting adventure. I think you could probably play it out within 5 sessions or something like that. I don't see this being a one shot unless you really steamroll it, and I think you'd lose out on a lot of the character development, and you'd also lose out on some of the action because there's no way you could cram combat and all that stuff in there in one adventure unless you really pared it down. I don't think it'd be the same adventure. So my guess would be about 3 to 5 sessions at the minimum, and keep it as like a full length adventure possibly. Or you can break it into sections so that each neighborhood is a different session depending on what happens. So I think that this would be fun. So let's take a look at a map online. So, and then I would probably take like an image like this and use this to create or generate some kind of cyberpunk related image. But instead of the warriors, it would say, whoever the gang that you want to call them, maybe just for like a poster. And then you could do something like this and just change all these guys into cyberpunks. You could do stuff like that. And then I like these action scenes, like where they got in this brawl in this bathroom. And then there's a scene where they were getting chased by the Turnbull ACs. They were on a school bus and they were chasing them down the street. They had to hurry up and get to the subway platform before they got rocked by these big tough bald dudes. So yeah, I think this is kind of a cool premise for a basis essentially for the adventure. And you can kind of do this with any rule set, to be honest. Like this could be easily converted to a fantasy type thing. Although I think science fiction and sci-fi and cyberpunk fits it more. You could do something similar, in a different genre if you put a little bit more work into it. So let's take a look at Cyberpunk Red map. Yeah, so these are some things that I usually get into. So this is a pretty decent map. I don't know if where this map came from. I don't know if it's official or someone built it, but it's a pretty good size image. So what they're saying is like let's see what we had here. Let's go back, and what I want to do actually is copy the image. I might even download it just for the sake of it. Save it. That's a WebP file too. What do you know? All right, so this is just going to be for reference, but this is kind of like the map. And I want to see, so Pacifica is supposedly where their turf is, which isn't too bad because the combat zone is just right south of them, so it kind of makes sense. Now let's take a look at the other locations. So the Corp Plaza is where the meeting was taking place, so let's take a look at that. So I'm going to close some of this other window so don't get confused here. I got way too many tabs opened. All right, there we go. Okay, so we go to Pacifica and then the Corporate Plaza. So that must be up in here. The old Corp Center. Yeah, so this is probably up in the center here. And this has also been destroyed by a previous battle, a previous war. So the meeting is over here, and you have to go across this bridge essentially to get to their territory, which is kind of cool. I like it. All right, let's see what the next location is. So various metro stations. So I'd have to research that, but probably one here, another platform somewhere in here. So at least a couple different locations where you might have platforms to get up on the train. And I think there's information in the books about the metro train. So I want to, this is a type of research I'd be doing essentially. What else do we got here? So okay, Night City Park. So I don't know exactly where that is. It's probably this here. This big green belt here. So 167, what's that? So I do like that this is detailed somewhat. 167, it's red, so it's restricted. Rain sought Lotus Gardens. Huh. Anyways, so there's probably a park in here somewhere that you could go to or use as a staging area for your encounters. And then the last location is the Afterlife. So I know where that is. So that's kind of in the by the Marina District. So I want to say clubs and bars. Okay, so the Afterlife 75. So it's up and around in here. There it is. So yeah, so this is kind of a roundabout location. And I think for the encounter with the Lizzies, they're basically the all-female gang. They try to, I don't know if they seduced, I don't remember exactly what happened in the movie, but they were, getting into, taking drugs and stuff. And I think they were trying to ambush them and turn them in and get, probably get an award or something. But I think that'd be a good place to ambush the players, is they probably duck into this place to hide out from the gangs outside, or to rest essentially. And it's a hangout bar, so it kind of makes sense. So they go in there and they probably get ambushed, or the Lizzies, I don't know what we're going to call them for us, but the equivalent of them, the Mox probably is probably what they are. So the Moxie or Mox is probably their name. Let me look at this. Yeah, the Lizzies. So this is probably the the all-female gang, and they might be all cyber psychos or something like that. So that would be cool. Yeah, so that would be the next step, is once I get all the locations dealt with, then I'd come in and start developing the gangs. Getting their leader figured out, getting their stats, at least for the boss and like one of the mooks, like the lower levels, and then also kind of decide how much tech I want to put in there. Like, do I want to keep it kind of gritty with just like, melee weapons and kind of a gun occasionally? Or do I want to keep it, totally true to Cyberpunk? I kind of like the grit. I want to use like nunchucks and like, like melee weapons, but there has to be some cybernetic elements to it. So obviously we're going to have some pistols and that sort of thing. But I'm not looking at having, a full on cyborg type thing. But there might be something like that in the background that's kind of stalking everybody. I don't know if you guys saw I think it was I can't remember what movie it was. I think it was The Summer of Sam. Essentially, this whole movie is taking place, but in the background, you got this serial murder. So I think that would make this interesting. So if you had something like that in the background where Night City police are looking for this cyber psycho, and the players get kind of indirectly involved with that too. So you can add a lot of elements to make the game more interesting. And if you have any slow spots, you can throw something like that in there. Just it doesn't have to be played out, but it definitely use that as a plot point and perhaps some future adventures. At this image, if you wanted to put this in Fantasy Grounds, it's pretty big, like dimensionally. I think it wouldn't have to be this big necessarily, but looking at the description, it's 2,148 by 1,733. So that's well within the limits, so it would work. And it's already in WebP format, so if you used a map like this, it would be okay. I don't think it'd be too rough. Just keep that in mind, but then I'd have battle maps for the different encounters. So I might have one that has the subway thing. I might have one that looks like a park, and then another one that's like an alley or a street. And then obviously the Afterlife nightclub would be the next battle map. And then maybe just an all-purpose kind of generic open area where you can use it to put tiles down, kind of like a quick map, so you wouldn't have to necessarily have anything fancy, just a place to put tokens. And that would help. So some of these maps that are showing in here, I own these. So like this thing here, this would be perfect for this type of game. And you got these like rooftop maps, and there's all kinds of resources out there and assets. A lot of these are on the DM's Guild, or you can go directly to the cartographer's website and pick those up. There's also some on the Fantasy Grounds Forge. There's some sci-fi maps on there too. So you got to take your pick, but you can adapt those or try to find something that'll fit with your paradigm of what you're trying to do in your game. So this is a little bit more of a district map, so you might use that for for other things. And then here's someone revamped the previous map, so they've kind of updated it. Tales of the Red, Black Chrome. Yeah, so this would be, here's some stars here's the Hornets Pharmacy. Here's Wood Chipper's Garage. So, you got all these different things of how it ties in with the DLC that's already out there. So there's lots of good resources on here. I'd probably use this one over the other one, but I do like that one. But anyway, so you got all these locations, and if your players go off track, at least you have some names and stuff, then you can develop those as needed. But hopefully you kind of keep them in the I wouldn't say railroad, but kind of keep them together and keep them, in a relatively related area. I don't think it has to be exact. You don't need an exact path, but to have them scattered all over Night City and then have to sit here and develop all these buildings and stuff as you go would be a lot of work. So what you could do is use the Night City Police Department to kind of keep them in the zone that you want, and use those elements to discourage them from leaving the path of your adventure. So you don't want to ever say, no, you can't go that way, but you can make it to where it's a real pain in the ass, and they have to kind of they have to say, well, it's either go this way or face death kind of thing. So you have to kind of give them the illusion of choice anyways. So that's kind of what I wanted to talk about today. Was the Cyberpunk rule set is a really polished and a very well developed rule set in Fantasy Grounds. If you haven't tried it or you're curious about it, I mean, it's very beautiful. I mean, the thing is so well set up and designed and automated that it's definitely award winning as far as I'm concerned. And I think this is your best experience through most of the virtual tabletops out there. From what I read, I'm not saying that Fantasy Grounds is better than anything else, but what I'm saying is the Cyberpunk implementation is really top notch, and it shows. And the people that are working on it really care. There's like 4 or 5 people on that team, and they all work together and they communicate and they talk to people and they reach out. And I'm going to actually see if I can get them to appear with me for the Founders Day weekend. So if you guys are interested in showcasing your products, or if you have extensions that you want to show how they work, let me know. So we're looking for volunteers and people that want to do this kind of showcase type stuff in the Fantasy Grounds Academy this month from the 26th to the 28th, so the whole weekend. I'm not trying to make it a big deal, but I definitely want to observe the holiday. This is our 7th year, and I think it deserves to have a couple cool guests. And, I think having those guys on again, I think I've talked with them before, but I want to have them back. And I'm looking at getting Monument Studios and a couple other industry guests, maybe even try to get Adam Bradford, maybe. But yeah, so usually I invite Doug every year. I still want him to show up, but if he's busy, I'd like to get Adam and see what he's got to say or do. Maybe do an hour with him. But anyways, if you guys have any ideas, send me some messages through Discord or comment in this video, and I'll get back to you. But I think it would be interesting to convert the movie, The Warriors, into Cyberpunk adventure, and I don't think it would be too hard. You use some kind of um, rewording and kind of configuring out, and do a little bit of research. Like, they're going to start. This is their home turf, but they start up here, and then they end up at the afterlife, and then they end up down here somewhere at one of the parks, and then they have to fight their way across the bridge. And this could be really interesting because that's like a one-way thing, so that could be really stressful. And then, of course, you'd have your different factions chasing you around. So I think it'd be a lot of fun. And I'm not gonna lie, if I was a better game master or referee for this, I would be running it just because. Just because I like the movie. I'm kind of a big fan of that movie. But yeah, so this would be a lot of fun, and I think the premise for that movie definitely fits the narrative here for Cyberpunk. It would easily convert over. But yeah, so there's lots of resources out there, you guys. There's maps, images, tokens, the whole 9 yards. Before I go though, I will do one thing with ChatGPT, and I'll see if we can come up with some kind of art. Let's see if it will do it or not. So I'm going to take one of the Cyberpunk. Actually, it was the Warriors that I wanted to look at. The Warriors movie. Okay, so this is the poster. So what I would probably want to do is like maybe some kind of scene like this, and then go into a program like ChatGPT or some of the other generative tools. Oops, I didn't want to do that. I want to grab the image. Okay, so copy, and then, so I want to say create a cyberpunk scene using the attached image of the Warriors gang. Actually, I'm not even going to say that because it might throw it off. So create a cyberpunk scene using the attached image for reference, because it may not even know what you're talking about. I'll say So create the scene of a cyberpunk street gang riding in a, say, just subway car, something like that, and we'll say dramatic dim lighting and with cyberpunk elements. So I don't think I like this, my prompt here. I don't think it's going to be very good. So what I will do is I will take this information and I'll put it back over here. And I want to, in Claude, I'm going to say, create a useful and detailed prompt, image prompt, for the Cyberpunk RPG, but with the Warriors movie theme. And then what I'll do is I'll just put something like this, and I'll say add the proper, I'll say settings and prompts. We'll see if it gives me something better, because the one I was starting really sucked. Okay, so this looks a little bit much. So I want to condense and refine for doll E3. This way I don't want this to, yeah, it's way better. So a cinematic cyberpunk scene in a dimly lit subway car, 5 diverse street gang members with neon accents, leather jackets, and visible cybernetic implants. So you can use something like this if you were going to create like a movie poster or maybe a cover for your adventure or something like that. So that's kind of what I'm trying to get here. So it's going to take a look at that image and then take this cue, hopefully, and I'll say create a detailed image of a cinematic cyberpunk scene. We'll see. Hopefully it gives, and then I'm going to say 16. Actually, I'm not even going to give it that. I'll just say photorealistic, something like that. All right, we'll see what it does. So you can take images like this. It's not going to make an exact copy, but it will use the color, the shape, the style, the poses to kind of inspire the image. So see, it's not exactly the same, but that looks pretty good. So yeah, that's really neat. So I like it. So I would probably use something like that if, you know, if I was inclined to. Yeah, I like it. So this obviously has more of a cyberpunk feel. So I kind of like it. So maybe you'd use that somewhere in your adventure. It doesn't necessarily have to be for this one either, but that's the things you can do to embellish your games and kind of add more visual appeal to it. But anyways, I think I'll let you guys go. I think that's enough for now. You guys have a wonderful week. See you guys around. And don't forget that we have our annual FGA or Fantasy Grounds Academy Founders Day weekend, which is just going to celebrate our community, the people that make up the community, and